Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Arthur O'Keefe, the principal of the school, and it is an honor to welcome you to the first TEDx Youth IAS event at the school in living memory. It is, first of all, I must thank our main organisers, Ola and Milena, wherever they are hiding. They have been working on this since 11th grade, first of all with Mr. Ruby, and then Miss Finch, Mr. Finch, has taken it forward in 12th grade, and it all culminates today. A huge undertaking to do this for the first time. Many weeks taking over the grade 9A homeroom during Friday lunch breaks in order to practice and prepare for this event today. I imagine that our speakers might be a little nervous. I'd be nervous. I'm nervous right now. I'm always nervous when I do these things. Nerves are good, give you a bit of energy. That's why you're moving. But apart from that, there's a greater purpose here. These students who have taken this forward, the students who are organising it, and the students who are speaking will hopefully inspire the next generation of students who can take TEDx forward next year and many years to come. It's a great opportunity to take those skills that you practice maybe in classrooms, in those smaller settings, less imposing settings, and put on a show in the most challenging of circumstances. So without further ado, I'm going to pass over to our main organisers and we can just get on with the show. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. O'Keefe, and good morning, everyone, and welcome you to our first TEDx Youth at IAS event. I'm truly honored to be standing here in front of you after working so hard on this with my wonderful and talented teammates. The idea of hosting a TEDx event at IAS actually sparked in me more than a year ago, and with the help of my friend and the student co-organizer, Milena Dodurko, and Principal O'Keefe, we established a TEDx Club in March, and the number of team members began to grow. This September, we were joined by some brilliant new students who were willing to help us host the event, as well as Ms. Karina Finch, without whom we wouldn't be able to stand here in front of you all today.
Before we start, I'd like to ask you a question. What is power and how does it shift? This is not necessarily about being the leader of a country and passing your position to the next person, or having the power in your multi-billion-dollar company. But it's also about the power you, as individuals, hold and execute in your own lives. Today, our speakers will explore many different aspects of power shifts, in areas ranging from history to horse riding. So I'm sure their performances will broaden your perspective and bring important ideas that you might have not thought of before. Now, without further ado, please give it up for our TEDx Youth at IAS speakers.
Our opening performance will be by Link Long, who will play Always With Me by Yumi Kimura on the piano. Let's welcome her with a big round of applause. click. Our first speaker is Glynis Balakrishnan, who will properly introduce us to the theme of our event, Power Shift. Glynis is a 9th grade student at IAS. Today she will talk about how power shift appears throughout our lifetime and how it shapes us to be the person we are today. Let's give it up for Glynis.
It is not the pertaining power that shifts you, but rather how you use that power to shift and bring up a change in your life. I want to ask you, how many of you here have power? You're probably thinking, what power? Everyone has their own definition of power. It could be physical strength to wrestle someone and win, like John Cena, or it could, if you ask a small kid, they'd probably say superheroes, with the extraordinary superpowers to catch the bad guy. Other references to power could be have control over property or land, or even control over the people and public. Above all these definitions, we all can agree that power is the possession of control, authority, or influence over other things. We all think that power belongs to the one superior to us. We don't realize the power that comes just from being who we are and shapes and molds our lives through everyday experiences. In general, power comes from the Latin word potere, which means to be able to. In life, we have two phases, in the family and in society. In family, we maintain a beautiful relationship and make sure to attain all the responsibilities relating to it. In society, it's a position of expertise that we hold. For example, as a teacher, a doctor, a landlord, a tenant, even being the president, you name it. In society, it's the one that shapes and molds our lives through everyday experiences. Power is just not exercising authority over others or other things, but rather puts you in a significant place of being held responsible for what you do. For instance, a strong and capable businessman can own a business and have all the power he has. On the other hand, if an incapable person owns a business, though he or she has the power over his business, if that person doesn't execute that power efficiently, there is no value to that power. According to Norman Cousins, the death is not the greatest loss in life. The greatest loss in life is what dies inside of us while we live. We have to understand, is the power inside of us still dead, or is it alive? If it's still alive, we need to know how to exercise the power, the skills that we've been given. We all have the skills in life, and we have to use that skill to attain and be successful. This makes a shift in our life. Through putting the effort in what we have, what position we've been given to, we can be able to be successful and reach our goals. Dreaming bigger, and instead of thinking about the worst possible things that could ever happen, think of how you could avoid those things. For instance, there was this young boy who was uneducated and poor in Japan, and his father was a blacksmith, but also owned this bicycle repairing. He did it, and he was very poor. And when he was at the age of 8, when he was going about his business, this boy heard an unusual sound. So to the sound, he was very fascinated by this and started finding what it is. And he found this 4-wheeling running machine. It was a Ford Model T. It was the first car that he had ever seen, and he was extremely fascinated by this. And he started chasing after it, not knowing why he was chasing after it. Years passed, days passed, and he hated school. He didn't want to go to school, and he didn't receive the proper education. On the other hand, he was very skillful in handling with engines, motors, and bicycles. So at the age of 15, he got hired at the Art Shokai, which was an industrial automobile servicing company, and he went there first. Unfortunately, he became a babysitter for the owner's child. The only thing that kept him there was the fact of going back home and having the shame of being unsuccessful. Fortunately, the company grew and became very busy, and he had to join in. He was very skillful since he already had the skills that he had, and he even took part in manufacturing the company's first racing car that won the first place in Japanese motor car championship. This made him in charge of the new branch of the company. Starting low but ending up really high, the company became very successful. He suggested that the company become a separate company instead of being a branch of that company, but the shareholders disagreed. So at the age of 31, he started his own business, which is known as the Tokai Seiki Heavy Industry. This was to manufacture piston rings. So at first, he wasn't very successful. He was such a failure, and he wasn't able to manufacture those piston rings. Then he went to an industrial institute to learn about this. Finally, he was able to make one, but it wasn't as qualified as it should be. Then he, disappointed by this, he even made 50 piston rings for Toyota, but only 3 passed the test. Even being disappointed by this, he tried really hard and went around Japan to find out how to manufacture these piston rings. Finally, at the end, he came up with an unbelievable result, which was really useful, and the company became very, very successful, that he had to keep up with the orders, and 2,000 people were hired. Life was wonderful, everything was successful for him, until Japan joined the Pacific War. The company started to decrease, and the employees were getting away because many were drafted for the war. Even the Ministry of Munitions took control of this company, and Toyota had 45% of this company. And he, becoming from president, became from the senior managing director of the company, so you can see how he had a float at that time. In 1944, there was a huge bomb blast to the company because of the war, and even getting more worse, in 1945, there was a Nankai earthquake which completely left the company in shatters. He was disappointed by this, and whatever was left, he sold it to the rest of Toyota for 450,000 yen. And he took that year off for a break. Then, when he was on his way in his break, he saw this generator engine operating wireless radios, which was used by the Japanese army in the war. He thought of how he could use this motor onto a bike, and he started a technical research company. This was to manufacture this project. Successfully, with his partners of 12 people, he was able to manufacture the first motorbike, even manufacturing the first Super Cub, and he was very successful, and his company became very successful in his life. So this man is Soichiro Honda, the company and founder of the Honda company, and continuing on with his life, he didn't stop there. He wanted to chase and accomplish the dream that he had been chasing after since he was 8, a bike, a car, an automobile. Many people told him to stop there and that it's enough. We already have enough of car companies in Japan such as Toyota and Nissan. But he didn't want to stop there. He wanted to accomplish his dreams. So he manufactured a car and brought it to the racing industry, that even winning the Formula One Mexican Grand Prix of 1965. Though it was successful in the racing industry, it wasn't as qualified as it should be, for example, like Toyota and Nissan. So he worked so hard, and like how he did before for the motorbikes, and he was able to manufacture the company's first a successful car in the automobile industry, the Honda Civic. This man, being such a success, remains an inspiration to many. He changed his life, and he knew that what he was accomplished for. And now it's our turn to change our life. This, we can understand a few characteristics from him. He understood the power that he had. He understood the skills that he was capable of handling machines, engines, and motors. And he didn't stop there. He wanted to accomplish the dream that he had been chasing since he was 8, even though many people told him not to. So, since he changed his life, we should take a step too. It's not in 3 years, in 15 years, or in 1,000,000 years. But now is the time. Now the statement that I made at the beginning should make more sense now. It is not the pertaining power that shifts you, but rather how you use that power to shift and bring up a change in your life. You've been given the power and use it wisely. And when you've changed your life, you can change the world too. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Glynis. That was perfect. Now, our next speaker is Yuling, a 6th grade student at IAS. She will tell us about the power shift to the tobacco industry, more specifically about the advertisement. Let's give it up for Yuling.
Before you scold me, Mom, maybe you'd better light up a Marlboro. The Marlboro cigarette company produced this advertisement in the 19th century, but do you notice any advertising like this if you go outside right now? Of course no. That's because people's attitude towards smoking were very different in the 19th century. At first, cigarettes were only sold on the coast of the United States. Then, a man called Jim Nigut brought tobacco back to France and grew it in a huge amount. However, cigarettes did not become fashionable until the 18th and 19th centuries. And this is the advertisement from the cigarette company in the 19th centuries. I was astonished when I first saw them because all their advertising phrases were deceptions. Your dentist will tell you why cigarettes are better for your teeth. Our smoke is as pure as the water you drink. Suck as much as you want, it relieves your tension. Cigarettes, the panacea. Is any of this true? No, none of them are true. They are all fabrications. Yet many do believe it. This situation ends until United States Administration of Medicine released a study on smoking and health. This scenario persisted. After doing extensive research, scientists discovered that smoking is a primary factor contributing to the high prevalence of lung cancer. As a result, the United States approved the Federal Cigarette Labeling and Advertising Act. Smoke-related TV ads were banned. A power shift between the influence of this advertisement happened. But did the cigarette companies quit? Of course they did not. They began to include countless covert adverts in films and television shows to connect the smoking with vibrancy, vitality, charm, and style, but were smart enough to know that nothing good like health, sexiness, charisma, or love can come from it. The only result is disease, torment, unhealthy physique, and diminishing beauty. But again, are we? People smoking cigarettes is a common sight. Cigarette contains more than 4,000 hazardous compounds, and 32% of smokers became hooked to cigarettes, which is even 9% higher than the heroin addiction. And the nicotine in 20 cigarettes may even kill a person. The cost of a single cigarette is impossible to fathom. To put it simply, it is everything one owns and more. It is your own perfectly healthy body. Doesn't those details seem like a description of a poison or maybe even prohibited drugs? Harmful, dangerous, addictive? Does it sound like a good thing? Despite this, many continue to smoke cigarettes, and quitting cigarettes is not as easy as it may sound. Over here I have a question. Why do people seem to have little regard for the health and well-being of others around them when they smoke in public places? Should I say they do not care or they do not know? Passive smoking during pregnancy can cause miscarriage or even deliveries with complications. How cruel is it for a child to have a life that is ridiculously different from the usual? Why is a ban on this not a priority? This may seem like an extreme statement, but consider this. 8 million people a year die as the direct result of smoking, and another 1.2 million people die as bystanders. Government have attempted to find solutions by raising taxes on tobacco, but this has only resulted in two situations. Smokers did not quit. Higher taxes only disturbed the household budgets. The smokers became stressed and they smoked even more. I believe the power shift that began in the 21st century continue and can truly happen by not just banning advertisements or implementing raised taxes, but by educating the youth every danger of smoking. Such a power shift is what I stand for. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yuling. Our next speakers before the lunch break are Asia Askin, Julia Alero, and Nikita Boras, who are all 11th grade students. They will tell us about the power shifts from paganism to Christianity in the Roman Empire. Let's give it up for Asia, Julia, and Nikita.
Have you ever heard of the people who worship Mother Nature? Wait, before you say what in the world is that, let me clarify a bit. When I say worshiping nature, I mean a religion whose God is the nature. Not like people being environmentalists or only loving it because it's a home to us. Well, today we will be unpicking some knots about these unique people. specifically talking the pagan people in the Roman Empire, and the socio-political power shift they had on religion, from paganism to Christianity. As shown in red on the map, the Roman Empire had occupied a wide territory in the past, including Turkey, Greece, Bulgaria, Spain, Italy, France, and England as we know today. And national changes on religion have always caused striking revolutions, which also, of course, applied for the Roman Empire.
So what exactly is paganism then?
Well, paganism was particularly a religion, again, where people worshipped nature and practiced polytheism or any other ethnic religion except Judaism. This lasted until the end of the 6th century, and it had been the Roman Empire's main religion for quite some time. It is actually estimated that paganism was practiced between 753 BC and 680. This religion, of course, had different outcomes for different classes in society, which meant that there was an inescapable social discrimination in the whole Roman population. In the Roman Empire, worshipping pagan gods and obeying the emperors were completely different things. Emperors had a spiritual authority over the public as well as their land, while the pagan gods were only of coexistence to them. Christianity, however, supplied equality for all social classes, and of course their god was not a coexistence. Therefore, it was really obvious that emperors no longer had the greatest or most divine authority over the public anymore.
Well, that's interesting, but how could we put all these events in a timeline?
Well, we can start off by the year 49 AD. This is when the Great Council of Jerusalem took place. Until then, whoever wanted to become a Christian had to follow certain Jewish rules. However, Apostle Peter was opposed to that idea and managed to persuade one against it. This led to many more people adopting that religion. However, the first step towards actually improving the quality of life of Christians within the Roman Empire came from the Emperor Trajan, who prohibited the trial and sentence of Christians without a formal complaint. In year 250 AD, the Emperor Decius ordered that the Decian attack persecution took place. It was the first coordinated persecution that targeted Christians who did not take part into the sacrifices towards the gods and to the emperor because they believed that only God should be worshipped. This caused many Christians to be imprisoned and executed, including Pope Fabian. This also caused tensions between the Christians themselves, more specifically between the ones who had performed the sacrifices and the ones who had not.
Okay, was there a center to all these persecutions?
Yes, there was actually, and it was in Comedia. In 303 AD, during the pagan festivals of the Terminalia, Diocletian, who was then the emperor, ordered that the newly built church of Nicomedia be razed and looted. The next day, he issued the first edict against Christians, which ordered similar measures to be taken across the empire. This caused great panic within the city of Nicomedia. Galerius then placed the blame on Christians. In 311 AD, Galerius signed the Edict of Toleration, which officially ended the Decian persecution, and it was the first one to legalize Christianity. A year later, in 312 AD, the Battle of Ponte Milvio was fought. The night before the battle, Constantine dreamt of victory, and he saw a cross in the sky with the phrase, "In this sign you shall win." In 313 AD, the Edict of Milan was signed. It was the agreement to treat all Christians equally and well within the Roman Empire. And many years later, in 380 AD, Theodosius I made Christianity the head church of the Roman Empire, punishing all the pagan rituals.
We think of this huge collision of mindsets and outcomes of these two religions as something life-changing. But what did the emperors think, and how did they react?
Good question. So let's look briefly to more examples. So the first emperor who was to face Christianity was called Nero. I hope you know, when you take a baby's pacifier away, it starts screaming and crying its lungs out. Well, that Emperor Nero was frustrated as much as that baby, due to the fact that the Christian people did not bow down to him, as it was expected at that time, because he was the emperor, the most divine person on the whole Roman Empire. Well, therefore, unfortunately, he attributed the great fire of Rome the great fire of a Christian community living in Lyon, and along with the persecutions causing hundreds of death and damage occurring more often and violently over the time. After Nero, Vespasian became the next emperor. Yes, a new emperor, better laws, more equality for all people. No, that did not happen. Vespasian became the next emperor and the next Christian hater. His only aim was to restore paganism fully and to keep it in the whole Roman Empire. So he caused the great murder of a Christian population living in Lyon. Also, with increasing number of persecutions. And heads up, he fed the dead bodies of people to circus lions. Yes, to circus lions. It's really intimidating, right? Well, this was his goal, or any other person's goal, to wipe the Christians out from the Roman Empire and to keep paganism fully. And yes.
Well, there must have been multiple reasons as to why there was so much friction between them, right?
Yes, actually there were multiple reasons. You're right. The main one being the fact that in Rome, the power of the emperor was a divine one, not a human one, and the emperor was to be considered as one amongst the gods. With this being said, the population was expected to make certain sacrifices and to give certain gifts to the emperor in his honor. On the other hand, Christianity only recognized one divine authority, one divine power, and the Roman emperor wasn't considered as such because their God was one and one only. This led to the Christian people being thought as people who didn't recognize the emperor's political position and authority, which then led to most of their persecutions. Another main difference between them was their distinct messages, which collided with each of their ideals. For example, the main message that Christianity has always conveyed was the message of equality, fraternity, and resurrection. This partially moral message rode countercurrent to the pagan Roman and Sanhedrin ideals, which was the reality of no one being the same, let alone in the same brotherhood. Also, as stated previously, the population was divided into different social classes, which added furthermore to their differences.
Okay, then were there any similarities between paganism and Christianity, or were they completely different things?
Actually, there were some similarities. The main one being their very similar hierarchical structure, which was seen as a threat from Rome. So at the bottom of the Christian structure, we have the Christian community, obviously, who were chaired by a deacon who dealt with charity work, and a presbyter who presided over holy ceremonies. These Christian communities were confined in certain territories called dioceses, and they were, let's say, governed by a bishop who remained one for life, who verified good and correct Christian behavior, and who just kept an eye on his community. So in conclusion, this power shift from paganism to Christianity has shaped our world as we know it, and has made its way into society by spilling an immense amount of blood and sadness. So this religion grew at its own pace, but thanks to its inclusive morals, which brought comfort to the whole of the population, it spread like wildfire. There were many emperors who despised this religion and who felt threatened by it, but in the end, persistence and overall faith within the empire led to Christianity overtaking paganism. Thank you.
Now let me invite you for a 15-minute break to try the delicious food our students have prepared. Speaker is Alexandra Krul from 8th grade. She will now take us to the world of horse riding. Let's give it up for Ola.
If you ever rode a horse, you know that there's a continual struggle for power between you and the animal. This is me when I first started riding. As you can see, the horse had more power than I had. Hello everyone, my name is Ola, and this is a speech about myself, the horse, and the power sheep. Like the majority of you, I became hooked to Netflix around 3 years ago when COVID hit us and almost everything shut down. One evening, I started watching a series called Free Rein by mistake. As you probably guessed, it has something to do with horse riding. It didn't take me long to persuade my mom to enroll me on a horseback riding lesson. But remember social distancing? Because of that, I first had to train how to sit on a horse properly by sitting on a pile of pillows. Despite how absurd may appear, it was actually beneficial. I started to train on a real horse as soon as the cramping was lifted. My trainer was thrilled with the pillow practice, but not enough for her to give me any control over my horse. She kept me on a lung for 2 months. I practically felt like a tourist. But within months of practice, I was given the opportunity to control my horse. I was so excited. I craved for this power and wanted it all. But keep in mind, I wasn't a pile of pillows anymore. I was a real horse that wanted the power too. Let me tell you a fact about horses. The horse has almost 10 times the power of a human. The term horsepower was coined for this very reason. While the horse and I were fighting for power, it occurred to me that there didn't need to be a complete power shift from the horse to me. Just enough so that we both understood and were in control. I needed to reach an agreement with my horse, and I needed to treat it the way I wanted it to treat me. Following that done, power shift occurred. A power shift in which the horse and I were equally in charge and had a shared understanding of what needed to be done. Today, I can leap effortlessly and my highest jump was 80 centimeters. Horse riding is an activity that not only gives me a sense of liberation and contentment, but also possesses the power to alter the way in which I perceive the world. This gave me a fresh viewpoint of power shift, a power shift that do not need to be dramatic. It just may be enough. Both parties feel equally and can jump over 80 centimeters. And this is the most recent photos of me. See how delighted we are. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alexandra. Our next speaker will actually be another Alexandra. This time, Alexandra Ivanchak from 12th grade. She will tell us about the warfare of 21st century. Let's give it up for Alexandra.
I no longer love blue skies. In fact, I now prefer gray skies. The drones do not fly when the skies are gray. These are the words of a boy named Zubair Rahman, who was 12 years old when he and his younger sister Nabila were injured in a drone strike near North Waziristan, one of the 353 drone strikes carried out in Pakistan during the Obama administration alone. In recent years, the widely supported drone warfare has become popular, while raising serious ethical concerns along the way. Drones have become an indispensable tool for many countries' armed forces, allowing them to conduct surveillance and targeted strikes without risking their personal lives. Although drones have numerous advantages and applications in areas ranging from medical help to agriculture, drones have also radically shaped the warfare of the 21st century. Governments and other parties use drones most importantly for practical reasons. Drones are relatively cheap, strike with high precision, and can easily collect a large amount of data. By using these unmanned aircraft, states can perform attacks on other territories without actually declaring war. They do so often without any transparency and with little to no accountability. As the concept of drone warfare is rather new, the regulations are still underdeveloped. For instance, the US government justified their drone strikes when there was an imminent threat of a violent attack. Come to think, what does the word imminent even mean? immediate, inevitable, likely, about to happen, unescapable? Turns out that an imminent threat doesn't actually require any evidence that a specific attack on U.S. persons and interests will take place in the immediate future, according to a confidential Justice Department memo obtained by NBC News. So this is where things start to get out of hand, and one might start question the credibility of these decisions. In so-called signature strikes, individuals were killed based on being the same height as a truck terrorist or using a container to carry something from their car to their home. To everyone's surprise, not only explosives can be carried in a container. An aid worker carrying water to his home in Kabul, along with 9 other members of his family, including 7 children, the victims of a U.S. drone strike in August 2021. Although these types of strikes have been limited now, situations like these raise questions about the legitimacy behind this modern warfare. Due to the lack of transparency, it's extremely difficult to name the dead. The Bureau of Investigative Journalism reports that U.S. drone strike casualties range from approximately 2,500 to over 4,000 in Pakistan alone. How can we, as the public, support the use of drones in warfare when there is not only uncertainty about the target's identities, but we are also not able to account for these 1,500 people? But global superpowers aren't the only ones using drones. Compared to other aerial vehicles, drones are widely accessible. Almost anyone with the help of YouTube or Google could construct or legally buy a drone on their own. This includes you, me, or an individual planning a terrorist attack. Trying to kill even the head of state has never been easier, like the event 5 years ago in Venezuela showed us, where a failed assassination on the president with the use of a retail, purchased online drone and military-grade explosives took place. Non-state militias and insurgent groups like the Houthis in Yemen also use drones to carry out attacks. Although their SAMAD UAVs aren't the newest technological development, they are advanced enough to carry out attacks on Saudi infrastructure. The range of up to 1,500 kilometers and the ability to carry explosives make it possible for the militants to target numerous airports and oil facilities while killing innocent civilians. When I tell you that future wars will be led by drones rather than humans, you might consider it some quite far-fetched dystopian nightmare. However, it has already come true around 2 years ago. According to a UN report, in 2021 we've seen a debut of a lethal autonomous weapon system in Libya. These drones, such as the Turkish STM Cargo 2, operate on a so-called fire, forget and find basis. They can fly themselves to a specific place, choose their target, and to conduct a strike without any human assistance. So we've seen the fatal consequences of using regular, operated by human UAVs warfare. So what makes us shift to relying on artificial intelligence-based weapons? And this is not a question of the technical abilities of the drones, as they can carry out attacks with absolute precision, but rather on the data it's making their decisions on. Previously, after acquiring intelligence that someone might be a terrorist, we viewed their ordinary actions, such as carrying canisters of water, to be proof of planning an attack. But now, this confirmation bias will be replaced by binary algorithms. Either someone looks like or is performing terrorist activities that the system was trained on, or not. Currently, AI is still heavily dependent on the content it's fed. Although it can identify patterns of human behavior and even predict it, artificial intelligence lacks the so-called common sense. Similar algorithms that distinguish people on the photos in your gallery on your phone are used to find targets. So the same way my phone doesn't always get that photos of me when I had blonde hair or when I'm wearing glasses are still photos of the same me. It might misidentify civilians for combatants and vice versa. Actually, a group of computer scientists found that by changing a single pixel, the system could identify the object in the photo as something completely different. All the convenience and lack of accountability makes it very much unlikely that drone warfare will disappear in the future. Drone technologies will continue to develop. However, we cannot turn a blind eye on the harm they have caused and the harm they have the power to cause in the future. We, as the future leaders of the world, must acknowledge the risks of drone warfare and endeavor to regulate it so drones won't make any other people hate blue skies. Thank you.
About the power shift from the west to the east from our 11th grade student Aditi Malhan. Let's welcome her with a big round of applause.
Hello everyone. Have you ever wondered where the items you carry or wear come from? Well, what if I tell you the clothes you're wearing right now have traveled the world to get to you? Turns out, these clothes, or on a broader scale, almost all items are manufactured and transported throughout the world. As a matter of fact, the majority of the items in this room are from Asia. These items are here today, all thanks to globalization and an even broader concept, which is the economic power shift from the West to Asia. For many decades, the West has been considered the economic powerhouse of the world. The United States and Asia have been home to some of the world's largest and most influential companies and have been the driving force behind the world's leading industries. However, in recent years, we have seen a significant shift in economic power from the West to Asia. Since then, countries such as China, India, and Japan have experienced rapid economic growth and have experienced development in various aspects. China has undergone a remarkable transformation since the end of Western influence. It has become the world's second largest economy and has grown at an average rate of around 10% over the past several decades. India has also experienced rapid economic growth since the end of Western influence. The Indian economy has grown at an average rate of around 7% over the past decade, lifting millions of people out of poverty. It has also witnessed massive progress in expanding access to clean water and reducing infant mortality rates. Overall, Japan as well, has rebuilt its economy and society since the end of the Western influence. The country has experienced a period of rapid economic growth in the post-World War II period, becoming one of the world's top economies. Today, Japan is known for its advanced technologies, high-quality manufacturing, and strong social welfare system. Overall, while each of these countries has faced its own unique challenges, they have all managed to grow economically and in terms of their society. Mainly, the economic power shift has been facilitated by broader trends in globalization and trade. As for globalization, there are numerous ways that have helped Asia's increasing influence. Let us look at the primary trend behind Asia's increasing economic influence, which is trade liberalization. As the name suggests, it has reduced trade barriers, which has made it easier for countries to trade with each other. This has led to increased trade between Asian countries and the rest of the world. In addition, as a result of reduced trade barriers, foreign investment has skyrocketed these past years. When countries reduce trade barriers, it becomes easier for foreign companies to do business in the region, which further leads to greater foreign investment. Both the reduction of trade barriers and the increase in foreign investment have risen as a result of the ASEAN Free Trade Area. It is a trade agreement between member countries of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, which was established in 1992. The goal of AFTA has been to promote economic integration and development in the Asian region and thus increase employment. In addition to globalization, trade has been a key driver of economic growth in Asia. Trade has been a key driver of economic growth in Asia, as it has allowed Asian countries to specialize in the production of goods and services in which they have a comparative advantage and to sell these goods and services to other countries. This has led to increased exports between Asian countries and the rest of the world, which has increased foreign investment and development in the region. Asian countries have also been able to take advantage of foreign investment, technology transfer, and knowledge exchange. This has made Asian exports more competitive in international markets, which has led to increased production of these goods and services and therefore economic upswing. Over the past years, the continent has produced major economic powers such as China, India, South Korea, and Japan. China is projected to become the world's largest economy, surpassing the United States by the end of the decade. India, too, is expected to continue to grow rapidly, economically, and even in terms of its society. While the region is close to becoming a global superpower, it's important to note that becoming a global superpower is not just about having a strong economy. Other factors such as cultural influence, diplomatic reach, and military power also play major roles. In addition, the concept of a global superpower is evolving. In the past, it was primarily based on military might. However, today, other factors such as technological and economic power play major roles. Having said that, Asia continues to foster economic growth in a way that unifies the world. From major trends in globalization and trade, to trade agreements that solidify the standings of major Asian powers, this economic power shift continues to grow. This has been made possible by two key factors that are globalization and trade. Ultimately, Asian countries foster economic growth in a way that unifies the world and continue to grow in unison with the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aditi. And last but not least, I would like to welcome a 12th grade student and the lead student co-organizer of this event, Milena Doderko. She will tell us today about the occurring power shift in media and their great risks of using social media. Let's give it up for Mila.
When I say social media to you, what comes to your mind? Your favorite celebrities, cute pictures of cats, or maybe even news? You see, statistics from Statista 2021 report that on average, people spend 4 to 5 hours on their phone. Now let me ask you, what about you? Myself, I'm always on my phone, but I know that there are dangers to this. You see, whenever you're using your phone, you're always consuming some kind of media, whether they're being funny videos or some serious news reports. Social media is so powerful because it influences your thinking and opinions, maybe even when you're not aware. You see, millions of people use it nowadays because you can access it anywhere and it's free. And now, to continue with this, I might tell you that social media is a place of fake news, and this is harmful to unaware viewers. So let's continue. Why does social media have so much power? You see, social media is great for businesses. They promote their products all the time, maybe even if you're not aware. Your favorite influencer is wearing some shirt. Maybe they've been sponsored, and now you will go out there and buy it as well. But you see, besides digital marketing, which is huge, we should talk about communities. All of you are part of some social media community. We all know platforms such as YouTube, Reddit, Twitter, TikTok, and so on, you name it. And you see, in those communities, they're usually consisted of strangers or friends, right? And all of these people share the same interests, hobbies, perspectives, and opinions. But you might see the issue to such communities. They often only have one point of view, one perspective, right? And they're kind of like bubbles. They circulate the same opinion all the time. So this can be bad for the viewers and the users of this community because they don't see other sides' perspective. And really the only way to battle this is for you, as the users, to go out there and read different sources or join communities with contrasting views and opinions of yours. But continuing now, we all know Facebook and YouTube. They have been the dominant platforms for the past 10 years. But now, TikTok is catching up. It's very popular among viewers whose age are from 15 to 30, and probably in this room, most of you have it. Right? TikTok was made for dances, challenges, and funny entertainment. But now it's also a source of news. You see, whenever you go on there, you might see some creators who report news, but how do we know they are even the experts? You see, an anti-misinformation, in the 2021 elections in the US, many TikTok users had used deepfakes and fake photos of politicians to persuade the voters. And this can be harmful, right? How do we tell apart if this is real or just a deepfake? And furthermore, if we're talking about TikTok, we should mention the Ukraine-Russian war. Yes, we all know that social media did so much for the war. They spread awareness, right? And they gave aid to Ukrainians all over the world. However, there's also false information and fake news. For example, NewsGuard, which is an anti-misinformation outlet, ran an experiment. The researchers had watched TikTok content about the war for 45 minutes. After the time, they have noticed that there is some truth, some verified information, I mean by that, and there's also some fake news. You see, most of the fake news were about US having bioweapon laboratories in Ukraine, right? This can be such stressful news, right, if you don't know what's going on and if you're unaware. There are also many photoshopped videos or pictures of Putin at various meetings. This can cause stress, disgust, or fear in us. Another issue to TikTok is that it doesn't show any warnings about the credibility, and many users don't give any references, sources, or links. So how on earth do we say if this is true or no? So please, whenever you click the share link, make sure that what you're sharing is the truth. Read other news sources, especially ones that have different perspectives on it. Because remember, every reporter has their bias. Now, continuing. What are some traditional news sources that you know? TV stations, radios, newspapers. They have been used for the decades, right? But the issue with TV news is that they often require cable TV, which you need to pay for. The same comes to newspapers. Why buy them when everything is free online? It's easier to watch news clips on YouTube for free, right? But you see, the thing is with newspapers that they often have verified journalists and authors, so we can do a little background research on the author and find out who they are. And this doesn't happen on random TikTok posts and Instagram posts. However, there is also an issue to TV stations. Sometimes they have propaganda. If you look in Poland, the public often criticizes the TV station TVP Info because people say they report news from the ideological perspective of the Peace Party. While some people may disagree and say they don't, however, we can see that they still criticize other parties in a negative light. This can have a great impact on the country, especially during elections. However, please remember this can happen anywhere. This doesn't apply only to TV stations. Social media can have the same thing. Propaganda is everywhere, you just don't know it. So, whenever you're reading some source, please just make sure it's verified, you know the author, and you also look at different sources that have different perspectives. Social media is very broad, right? The digital world is huge. And it's more likely for you to run into perspectives that are different. But you must also remember that your algorithms are personalized, meaning that what you see is probably something that you support. So, how to conclude this? Who do we trust? First of all, anyone can call themselves an expert nowadays. This is very dangerous. So whenever you read something, read the author. Next, what can you do? Social media lies, okay? Something that you hear in the news doesn't mean it's true. So now, for me, social media is this mystical thing. It's growing every day. It's evolving right in front of your eyes. So now, the audience, whenever using any platform, any app, question yourself if what you're reading is true. Question yourself if it's credible, who wrote it, when, and what. So please, now when you're on your phone, be more aware. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Milena. Before our closing ceremony, let me invite you for a 5-minute break. As we come to the end of the TEDx Youth at IAS event, I would like to thank each and every one of you for making this event possible. I'd like to firstly acknowledge the contribution and support of Ms. Elnika Paszkowska, Mr. Mehdi Zayed, Mr. Hakon Johannesson, and Mr. Arthur O'Keefe. It's been a historic day and a significant achievement for both our club and IAS. Today, we had the opportunity to learn more about the power in the past, present and future, as well as about the global power and the power we hold ourselves. By sharing their ideas, the speakers challenged us to rethink the way we approach the concept and made sure we can apply this newly gained knowledge into our own lives. So without further ado, let me first invite our outstanding speakers on stage. I'd like to thank them for their time, effort, and dedication in preparing for their talks. It takes a lot of courage to get on the stage and share your ideas with the world, and we are grateful for your willingness to take the risk. Let's give them a big round of applause. And of course, we can't forget about our amazing organizers team. I'd like to invite them on the stage as well. Let's give them a big round of applause for their hard work and commitment to making the event an unforgettable experience. Last but not least, I want to thank the one person without whom it would be very hard to end this day with such a success. Let's welcome Ms. Corona Finch on stage. Thank you for your excellent leadership, attention to detail in every aspect of the event, and willingness to go above and beyond to ensure that everything runs smoothly. Let's give it up for Ms. Corona. And to our incredible audience, thank you for being a part of this wonderful day. Keep the spirit of TEDx Youth IAS alive and continue to spread ideas worth sharing. Thank you.